It was supposed to be an ordinary Saturday evening. I had just set a pot of stew on the stove when the front door slammed open so hard the walls rattled. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. Eric, my ex-husband, stood there, his face twisted in a mix of anger and something colder, something that made my blood run icy. Suspicion. Before I could even find my voice, he tossed a manila envelope onto the table with a thud. "I want a DNA test," he said, his voice low but sharp enough to slice through the room. "For Sophie." My stomach dropped. I gripped the counter just to steady myself. From the living room, I heard a pencil fall. Sophie had been working on her math homework, but now her wide eyes peeked from behind the couch. She couldn't fully grasp the weight of her father's words, but she understood enough. He was questioning her. My heart pounded, fury and disbelief crashing inside me. I had endured Eric's accusations before, but this was different. He was tearing at the very core of my daughter's identity. I thought divorce freed me from him. I was wrong. When I first met Eric, I was only 23 and full of hope. He was charming, funny, and ambitious, the kind of man who made promises with such confidence that you wanted to believe every single one of them. We didn't waste time. Within a year, we were married. Looking back, maybe we rushed into it, mistaking passion for stability. It didn't take long before the cracks began to show. Eric's charm came with a darker side, insecurity. He questioned everything, where I went, who I talked to, even why I smiled too long at a waiter. At first, I thought it was jealousy, maybe even a sign he cared too much. But over time, it became suffocating. His words turned sharp, his trust thinner than glass. When Sophie was born, I thought she might change him. For a while, she softened him. He held her with a tenderness I didn't recognize in him, and I prayed that fatherhood would anchor him. But it didn't last. His doubts, his temper, his need for control, it all came back stronger. Eventually, I left. The divorce was messy, bitter, and full of accusations. Yet, through it all, Sophie still wanted her dad. She clung to those few weekends he actually showed up, the birthday gifts he sometimes remembered, and the rare moments when he smiled at her without bitterness in his eyes. So when he stormed back into our lives demanding a DNA test, it wasn't just an attack on me. It was betrayal, of Sophie, of the fragile bond she still had with him, and of every ounce of trust one had fought so hard to rebuild for her. Eric leaned against the table, arms crossed, his jaw set like stone. "I have a right to know," he repeated, as if the words alone justified ripping my daughter's world apart. I felt my blood boil. My voice trembled at first, but anger steadied it. "A right to know? Eric, you walked out years ago. You missed school plays, birthdays, nights when Sophie cried herself to sleep asking where you were. You don't get to vanish and then come back waving rights like a flag." His eyes narrowed. "Rumors don't start for no reason. I'm not the only one wondering." The words sliced through me. Before I could lash back, a small voice drifted from the living room. "Dad, do you think I'm not yours?" Sophie stood there, hugging her notebook to her chest. Her eyes glistened, confusion written all over her face. My heart cracked at the sight. Eric shifted uncomfortably, looking at her but not answering. I stepped between them. My fury sharpened into steel. "Listen to me, Eric. If you want a DNA test, fine. But you'll pay for it. And when the truth comes out, you'll deal with the fallout, the shame, the broken trust, the damage you're doing to your own daughter." His smirk faltered, just for a second. I didn't fold. Not this time. Eric's face hardened. "If you won't agree willingly, I'll take you to court. A judge will order the test. You can't hide forever, Monica." I laughed bitterly, though my hands were trembling. "Court? Fine. Let's go to court. And while we're there, I'll make sure custody is reviewed. Don't forget your arrears in child support, Eric. I've got every missed payment recorded. You really want to open that box?" For the first time, I saw the flicker of doubt in his eyes. He didn't expect me to fight back. But the threats didn't stop. He called the next day, and the next. Some of his relatives whispered, fanning the fire. Friends gave me conflicting advice. One said, just take the test, prove him wrong, shut him up. Another warned, don't let him bully you into it. He doesn't deserve that power. I lay awake at night replaying both sides. Should I protect my dignity or end this war once and for all? Meanwhile, Sophie grew quieter. One evening, she asked in a trembling voice, Mom, does Dad think I don't belong to him? My throat closed. No child should ever have to carry that kind of doubt. I hugged her close, whispering, you belong to me, always. Don't ever forget that. Still, her words burned in my chest. Eric wasn't just questioning me, he was tearing at Sophie's very sense of who she was. What would you do if you were in my position? Would you take the test and prove him wrong, or would you fight him in court? Tell me in the comments, because I was torn apart inside. In the end, I agreed to the test, but on my terms. Eric would pay every cent, and I had my lawyer draft the paperwork so there would be no loopholes, no manipulation. I wasn't going to be dragged into this circus without protection. At the clinic, the air smelled like antiseptic and tension. Eric sat across from me, arms folded, a smug little smirk tugging at his lips. He thought he'd already won. I kept my face calm, but inside I was fire. Every swab, every form we signed, I reminded myself this wasn't just about proving paternity. This was about holding Eric accountable for the damage he was causing. When it was over, Sophie clung to my arm. Her big eyes searched my face, and in a whisper that nearly broke me, she asked, Mom, are you mad at me too? I froze. My throat ached as I crouched down to her level. No, baby. Never. This isn't your fault. Not one bit. Don't you ever think that. I kissed her forehead, but the question stayed with me long after we left the clinic. Because deep down, I knew, even when the results came back clear, Sophie would never forget the day her father doubted her. The days dragged like months. Every time the phone rang or the mail hit the box, my stomach twisted. The waiting was its own kind of torture. But I refused to sit idle. While Eric strutted around town, spreading rumors and dropping hints that the truth was about to come out, I sat with my lawyer and filed the paperwork. Custody review. Back child support. Even the beginnings of a defamation claim. If he wanted a war, I was going to fight with facts, not gossip. People whispered, of course. Some avoided my eyes at the grocery store. Others sent me quiet messages of support. But the damage was already being done. And Sophie, she grew more withdrawn. She stopped asking about her dad altogether, as though shutting him out before he could hurt her again. At night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every possible outcome. But no matter how hard the doubt tried to creep in, I clung to one truth: I knew who my daughter was. And no paper, no rumor, no court order could change that. I stared at the ceiling one night and whispered to myself, if Eric thinks this test will break me, he's in for a shock. And then, one morning, the envelope arrived. The day the results came in, Eric insisted we open them together. But I had something else in mind. I called a meeting at my mother's house, family, a few close friends, even Eric's sister, who had been whispering behind my back. If he wanted to drag my name through the mud publicly, then he could face the truth publicly, too. Eric swaggered in, confident, already smirking as though he knew what the envelope contained. I let him sit at the table, surrounded by the very people who had been watching this storm unfold. My hands shook as I tore the seal, but I read the words loud and clear for everyone to hear. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. The room fell silent. All eyes shifted to Eric. His smirk collapsed into stunned silence. I slammed the paper down on the table. You doubted your daughter. You shamed me. You dragged us both through hell. And now, everyone knows the truth. Eric's face turned crimson. He opened his mouth, but no excuses came. From the corner of the room, Sophie stepped forward, clutching her stuffed bear like a shield. Her voice was small, but it cut sharper than anything I could have said. "Dad, why didn't you believe in me?" The words pierced the air. Eric froze, his shoulders slumping under the weight of a guilt he couldn't dodge. I pulled Sophie close, my heart breaking and burning all at once. The truth had set us free, but it had also left scars that no test result could erase. After that day, Eric's world crumbled faster than I could have imagined. His new partner walked out, embarrassed to be tied to a man who doubted his own child. Friends who once nodded along with his whispers now avoided him. His credibility was gone, shredded by the very truth he tried to twist. As for me, I didn't waste time. I marched into my lawyer's office with the test results and the stack of paperwork we'd prepared. Within weeks, I filed for restricted custody and demanded every cent of unpaid child support. Eric had wanted to use the court system to shame me, now he was the one under its weight. But the real wound was Sophie's. Though the results cleared the doubt, the memory lingered. She asked fewer questions, but her silence spoke volumes. Trust is fragile, and I could see the way her eyes avoided his name when it came up. She was learning, far too early, that sometimes the people meant to protect you are the ones who hurt you most. I held her close one night and whispered, "Your worth was never in question." Not for a second. Would you forgive someone who doubted you this deeply? Or would you cut them off for good? Let me know in the comments, I really want to hear your thoughts. Looking back, I realized the DNA test didn't just prove that Sophie is Eric's daughter, it revealed who Eric really is. A father's role is built on trust, love, and loyalty. And when he chose suspicion over faith, he exposed his character more clearly than any piece of paper ever could. I sometimes wonder if I should have forced him to fight it out in court, to feel the weight of every doubt he threw at us. But in the end, the truth came out anyway. So I'll leave you with this: if you were me, would you have given him the test, or made him fight for it in court? If this story gripped you, hit subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and let's keep the conversation going.